Hey everybody, this is Robb Ryerse, Political Director of Vote Common Good, and this is the Common Good Candidates podcast, where we have conversations with some extraordinary, ordinary Americans who are running for political office, doing that thing that, maybe you've thought about doing. And you should run for office, just like the folks that we talk to every Wednesday are doing. And today we're going to have a conversation with Marisela Jimenez, who is running for the state legislature in the great state of Texas. Marisela, MJ, welcome. So glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah. Hey, listen, let's begin with the end in mind. It's November 6th. What have you accomplished? What are you proud of? How are you feeling?
I visualize that moment, November 6th, and I see myself as another day where we reach the milestone. And what that looks like is that people who currently have not believed that it can be done, whatever that looks like, whatever it can be done, will also be reflecting on that very moment and realizing that I should have trusted more, I should have believed more, and I'm sorry that I didn't do enough. I know that we can win by a very small margin. November 6th is the day where we can all look back and say, wow, that one extra push was completely worth it.
I love it. How did you come to decide that you were going to run for office? And then how did you decide that you were going to run for the Texas state legislature as opposed to, all the other things that somebody could run for?
It is a whole puzzle that my own mom helped me recall. So about 1992, I came to the U.S., and back then, of course, as a young immigrant, and I was so excited to be in this country because the images I saw on TV when I was growing up, it was like this beautiful country, everything is great. And so I don't know exactly what shaped my political landscape when I came to this country because it's 32 years ago. But I can tell you that in college, I was asked to become the president of my college as the president of human rights. And that ignited, that's the very first time when I had a taste of human rights. And I became very much aware of so many injustices and things that I did not know existed even in a very micro level surface. And so then, of course, I continued to take sociology classes and government classes, political science classes. And then, of course, that just had a whole ripple effect to how I ended up here is I haven't stopped. It's doing the small things every day and someone calling for something. And it just happens that I either know how to do it or know someone who knows how to do it. And until someone asks me, why are you not running for a state representative in your district? Because we need someone who is ready to roll up the sleeves and just be relentless and do it because you already doing so many things behind stage. And my first answer was, well, I'm not a politician. I'm an activist. That's what I am. That's who I am. That's what I've been doing since 1992 when I helped so many communities, especially those communities who had just migrated from Cuba and did not know English. And my little English that I had learned, I was teaching them. And so it's almost like you have a little piece of bread and you're willing to share with someone else. And that's really how people encouraged me to go front stage and become public. And now I'm here doing exactly that.
So much of the bad ideas that are kind of being done around the country are coming from state legislatures, and like they're almost like just like ovens for bad, like growing bad ideas. And I'm curious, what your perspective is on how you can be an advocate and bring that activist spirit into a legislature in Texas where a lot of bad ideas are gaining steam and growing.
Look, it's really that going back to the basics. I learned this in my leadership studies. Part of my studies, of course, is very comprehensive in leadership. And one thing I learned is that public administration is to serve the public. And of course, there is the private administration, and that's to serve the stakeholders and the stockholders, right, at the different levels. So with my master's degree in public administration, at that time, when I earned that degree, I was working for the Department of Defense. I was working in the public service environment. And I think what has happened, this is the very first time I witnessed this in Texas, because previously to that, I lived in other states like Hawaii, like Massachusetts and Illinois and New Mexico. And I witnessed altogether a different leadership. Texas is very unique in its body of government, the values, the philosophies, and I understand why their decisions are shaped the way they are. But let's just go back to the basics. I see myself being in the legislative office with my colleagues, and because I have a very, very profound understanding of the cultural intricacies and the complexities of how people learn to think and even behaviors that they develop, and sometimes it becomes a group think, which I protect myself against becoming so involved into the narrative. And I always take a step back and realize that, hey, let's make sure that we go back to the fundamental principles of what influences the decision for the common good. Hence, this is why I love your support, because it's always making sure that we remember that as a public servant or as a public leader, as an individual who we are there to represent the people who trusted us. Let's not forget that we are there for them. And that has been my drive. And I know that I will retain those convictions and those values, because that's the fabric of my entire existence as a human in this whole universe.
Yeah. And sometimes I just rant about like the literal job title is representative. That's literally what the job is to represent the people of your district. And so many folks just don't do that. And it's so frustrating. So what's it like to run for office? Most people never have the chance to do this. What's been different from what you expected? How has it been? Has there been any like crazy, amusing, interesting things that have happened? Like what give us a little window into what it's like to be a candidate for office.
It reminds me to when I was in high school, and I told my parents I wanted to play the violin. And the first thing was like, why the violin? No one in the family has ever played the violin. Why not the guitars or something more Mexican that people recognize? And that when I told my family, I was so nervous, because family is my nucleus, and family are my first, let's go, or that's a crazy idea. And so I took the chance, and I waited, and I made the announcement to my family in private, and they told me they supported what I'm about to do. They don't understand it, but what it is, right? The whole being in this is realizing that when people hear the word politics, sadly, is associated with something that is not very positive, something that is not very clean. And my family's biggest concern, of course, was, are you going to be like them? I reminded my family that, yes, and I reminded my family that my name is Marisela Jimenez. I am your daughter. I am your sister. I am your cousin. I am the person that came from this background. And because of what I grew up I grew up in a place where, of course, my family and I experienced so much corruption in the body government of Mexico. Thankfully, we have new leaders, and thankfully, the country has changed and it continues to change. But that's the trauma that we the Hispanic, the Spanish speakers community, we have that embedded in our, generationally. And so let's just be very clear that I stand for honesty, I stand for character, and I stand for doing things that serves the community. And so that doesn't make me popular, because I am standing for something that defies the status quo. And if people don't approve of me because I stand for integrity, then let's see who will stand and show up and say, it's time for an honest leader. And that's me.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about immigration and immigration policy, and, what it's an issue that we care a lot about at Vote Common Good. And it's an issue that has been demagogued and, just turned really nasty all over the country. But you have, I'm sure, a pretty unique perspective as a person who did migrate into the United States, as someone who is running in the state of Texas for the state legislature. Talk to us about, what should people around the country know about immigration and the situation at the border that, may or may not be what they see on TV.
Absolutely. As I said, the perspectives that I have are very global, not only because I do come from another country such as Mexico, which is the neighbor. Texas belonged to Mexico not too long ago. And so people do say, hey, we didn't cross the border. The border crossed us because of the politics, right? And so
yeah,
we also,
well said.
Yeah, we also understand that history is written by the person who obviously has the resources to write those books and then persuade the reader. But here is really what I love about coming to Texas and realizing that there are so many people who are not natives of Texas, right? Texas is a beautiful piece of land and is so abundant. But when we flip the pages into history, we realize that unless you were born in this land, unless the border crossed you over, right? Not you didn't cross the border. So you are not really from Texas. You probably are now born in Texas, and constitutionally people are acknowledged as U.S. citizens. But going back to immigration, our country, this country, United States of America, was built with the hands of immigrants, right? We can go back to the roots. And I'm just so excited to even say this because that's something people don't know about me. I earned my undergrad in Massachusetts, Framingham State, Massachusetts. And then it's there in Boston Commons. I raised my hand and I pledged when I became a U.S. citizen. And I said this, yes, in the words of J.F. Kennedy, ask now what your country can do for you. It is my time to do something for my country. And look, this is America. This is my country. America has given me so much. Oftentimes people tell me, you're so passionate, you're so patriotic. And what I say, I am grateful. I am grateful for what this country has done for me. This country has educated me. This country has opened doors for me. This country lifted me up out of poverty because I was told, if you work, you can have bread at the table, food at the table. If you go to school, I did every single thing I was asked to do. And so all this immigration that we still have coming through, I want people to know, take time to read news that are not created in the U.S., okay? If you happen to go to another country, turn on the channel and watch what those networks are saying about us here in the U.S. So we understand that media like to create this content because that's what pays them, okay? So we want to make sure that you are questioning everything. I always say this to students when I speak to students, question everything. Second thing, read things within context. And 3, make sure that you also have your individual consciousness telling you what is true and what is something that's just there to manipulate you. So immigration is the fabric of what has built this country. And even many organizations that are very, very powerful today were built by immigrants. And thankfully, today many people enjoy the great benefits. So immigration policies, I support immigration, but because I became a U.S. citizen through the immigration process, I believe in supporting fair immigration policies and, of course, not violating them. And I encourage other people to do the same.
Yeah. Why do you think Republicans have turned immigration into such a divisive political football? You know, I think about the Republican National Convention where they're holding up, you know, mass deportation now signs, and you know what's that all about?
It's a way to unite themselves and forget their true identity, because honestly, the hypocrisy that exists in even the governor of Texas, he's married to the daughter of an immigrant, right? We got the former President Biden, who's married to an immigrant, right? Beautiful woman, but nevertheless an immigrant. And then, of course, we got the current VP, who's also, you know, the nominee. He is also married to an immigrant. So mass deportation means this, okay? It's a dangerous and irrational idea. This is why. I'm not going to get theoretical here, but all you have to do is basic principles of economics, supply and demand. When you do mass deportation, you better be prepared. Okay, everyone who supports mass deportation and you don't want to pay more money for who cleans your toilets when you go at the airport or to the airport, who picks up your food, who cleans the hotels, all the low-skill jobs and all these jobs that no one wants. No insurance, harsh conditions, and I can go on and on. Be prepared to replace the millions of migrants or immigrants in this country who are doing the work no one really wants. So if you have the plan, I would like to see it, and I would like to encourage it if it works. Otherwise, be ready, because the economy will be destroyed and you will not have a job.
Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit. Your district is kind of north of Houston, in like the Woodlands area. Tell us about, like, this is my guess is a very fast growing area. And, you know, tell us about your district, about, Texas District 150. What's it like? What should we know about it? You know, what do we need to know? What makes this district such a great place to live?
Let's focus on 3 things. 3 things most people have no idea, because even for myself, when I relocated to this area, was like, what is that? Number 1, District 150 is unincorporated, and it is inside Harris County. Harris County is one of the largest counties, obviously, in Texas. But the second thing I want you to know is that for 41 years, there has only been representation of the other party. And that just because of the nature of people, the demographics back then, Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, they didn't really choose this very rural place it used to be, and not anymore. ExxonMobil relocated 2010, launched, and that's one of the reasons I ended up here, because my husband is an ExxonMobil team member, and we were in Irving, Texas. That's where headquarters was located. And when we got here, it just boomed, right? So ExxonMobil has brought an incredible amount of people, and that led to businesses exploding, that led to apartments, just exploding. Like, we have so many apartments being built. And then, of course, do have other organizations that have followed, right? But ExxonMobil is the reason why my area sprang and climb and a little bit of tumble. I have that representation is economically doing so well. Remove ExxonMobil and there's again a rural area and there's nothing. But then the third thing I want you to know is that it's gotten so diverse. It's so much more youthful. My husband and I would not come to this community, but it does lack a lot of representation. That's the last thing I want to say is really sad because even though we are now 60+% majority of minorities, right? So we are the majority, Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, highly educated. I do have a PhD, by the way. I have a master's degree. And of course, my husband is highly accomplished professional. And that's the same fabric of the people I'm surrounded by in this community because I'm only 3 miles away from the campus here in ExxonMobil. And so let's remember that the fabric of what comprises spring, climb, and tumble, District 150, more educated, younger population, Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, and East Asians, of course. And so we have much work to do. It's time for representation. And I would love to have you contact me and inquire more about it.
Yeah, that's great. MJ, we ask voters to use the common good as their voting criteria when they go into the voting booth. And we ask people that are running for office to use the common good as their governing criteria if they're elected. When you hear a phrase like the common good, what's that mean to you? What comes to mind for you?
Going back to the foundation of what I said, representing the common good, the greater good, right? The utilitarian philosophy is one of the philosophies I embrace. And I understand that not always is possible to accomplish everything for 100%, but the greater good. It's, for example, for me, children are my greater good. I will do whatever it takes for children to have a better future. And sometimes people even challenge me, Rob, and they say, MJ, you don't even have children. And I let me just clarify. I don't have children because there's a purpose for me in life, a greater purpose. Mm-hmm. And in that, I said that the world's children are my children, and that drives me. There's a reason why maybe I wasn't, given the opportunity to birth my own children, but that's no excuse for me to focus on the greater good of children. And I will continue to do it because that's the future. And in 2025, 2050, unfortunately, many people are still making decisions that benefits them right now, including government, and they neglect to focus on what is best and for the greater good of children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Running for office is hard. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. It is discouraging at times. It is, it's an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. How do you keep going in the midst of that? What's your, how do you stay positive? How do you stay active, in the midst of just a rough political environment and the difficulty of running for office?
First thing, I wake up about 4:30 a.m. and I do have a membership to the local gym, and I make sure I go to the gym. But before that, I do spend time quietly reflecting. I believe in having my personal communion and meditation. Then I make it to the gym, and I'm always listening to things that encourage me. I believe in the neuroscience of the brain, and just like I water my plants, and if I put clean water, then my plants will blossom. But if I put poison, then what am I going to expect, right? There's a Bible verse out there, right? We shall recognize the tree by its fruits. And so if I'm a tree and my fruits are withered and there no one wants my fruits, then I should examine what's in my thoughts and my emotions. And so with that said, I make sure that I hold myself accountable, and I even with my husband, I make sure that I am, something positive for him and around him. But yes, I do something very personal, but it's because of my personal experience. Look, Rob, I have overcome a lot of adversity. And so I always think, wow, if this is the worst I can get, this is nothing, right? So I've had a lot of adversity, and I think all those experiences have shaped me for this moment. And this moment is simply, I was trained for this moment, because the race, the emotional, the psychology, all these things, I feel like all the bruises that I had in my childhood and my adulthood prepared me to endure and finish strong, regardless of the outcome.
Love that. MJ, how can people find you? What help do you need? How can people connect, and what can they do to help you?
Absolutely. Starting with my website, mariselajimenez.com, as you can see. And one other source that I encourage people to look is my Velopedia. My Velopedia is very explicit. It has a lot of great information. Also, X, my social media platform, I'm a lot more active in the X social media. And so I post videos there. But my phone number is public. And I love getting those text messages. I tell people I'm approachable. I'm your neighbor. I'm a member of that community. And if I am going to put barriers and bots, for why not to get a hold of me, then I'm not the right person for you to support me. So I'm here to represent you. I'm here to represent the whole community. And I hope to hear from you, whether it's text message, email, phone calls. Find me at the gym, because that's where I'm there every single morning. Hey, let's go run together. Let's go for a walk. And I also love going to have ice cream and bakery here at my local place. And so I'd love for you to come and join me.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. And when folks visit your website, I'll say it for you. You got to smash that donate button, and because running for office costs money, and MJ needs your help with that too, right? I imagine.
Yes, and look, I want to let you know. Let me just clarify something when it comes to donation. Your 10 cents or $45, which is what my union leader printer. It's and that's it. I am going to honestly spend every dollar only in printing materials. I believe to be so gifted in so many skills that I have produced my own work, and I have an amazing team who are giving their time at no charge. That's the voice of the people, and that's what I'm doing every day. So only donate, knowing that your money is going to be well spent and never misappropriated. And I want to close this. I will represent each one of you, regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from, whether we share the same background or not, or language. But understand this. I'm here to serve honestly, with integrity. And I ask you already to start holding me accountable. If you don't see something, ask me. I'm here for you.
MJ, thank you so much for being on the podcast and having this conversation with us. I'm so excited about your campaign, and I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last few months, and I can't wait until you get elected to the Texas state legislature.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much.
And thanks everyone for listening and being a part of this conversation with Marisela Jimenez, candidate for the Texas House of Representatives in District 150. Conversations like this happen every Wednesday between today and Election Day, right here on the Vote Common Good podcast network. And you can find out more about MJ and all of the other candidates for Common Good by visiting candidatesforcommongood.com. We'll chat with you next week.